What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Sports Talk on Tap video. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday covering all the four major sports leagues, whether it be NFL, MLB, NBA, or NHL, games, news, highlights, or even trade news. In today's episode, obviously, for anyone watching, we will be talking about probably the last, possibly biggest trade to happen this offseason. Obviously, most teams report to training camp, today or tomorrow. So pretty much every team's set. They're trying to fill out the roster with what they have, the 90 players plus attending their training camp. But Brandon Aiyuk, obviously, over this past week, has requested a trade from the 49ers after they seem to not find a contract to make them work, and they just can't agree with the 49ers cap situation. I don't know how much they can really go to make this work. To be fair to the 49ers as well, this kind of reminds me of the same situation they had with Deebo Samuel 2 years ago where he requested a trade, all that, and then he got a new contract. So I don't really know, obviously, where he will land or if he will get traded because, like I said, teams are already reporting and kind of getting underway with their training camps. But we'll see what Brandon Aiyuk does as we approach the final. As he approaches his fifth-year option year, I think it's $14 million, something like that. So with that being said, should be very interesting what they do. But with that being said, obviously the 49ers have the leverage in the situation because people, forget with the rookie contracts, they're like, oh, you play out the year and then you lose them for nothing. No, they can just franchise tag him. And I think the best option will be, honestly, will be for him to just play it out. But with that being said, this will be a trade speculation idea where the best landing spots for Brandon Aiyuk this upcoming season. And Nick, I'm curious what your number one is.
So I feel like I've heard a few rumors of a few different teams. I want to say the Jaguars were a team that I know we were talking about them the other day. They were a team that I want to say was rumored that could be a good fit. And I know my team, the Patriots, has been linked to Brandon Aiyuk pretty much since draft day. I know the Patriots made a trade offer for him. I think the day of the draft, it was obviously turned down because they were still talking. But not sure if you saw it, but Patriots defensive end Matt Judon actually retweeted a fake tweet that it was a fake or not a fake tweet, but a fake trade tweet where it sent him and a second round pick to the 49ers for Brandon Aiyuk. He retweeted that. He's kind of been having some drama issues off the field with his contract and stuff.
Matt Judon's been trying to recruit people to New England for years.
Well, that's him trying to get out. That seems like it's him trying to get out, which is it's really weird. But
either way, if I'm the 49ers, I'm not doing that just because Matt Judon's injury history, and you can still definitely get a first-round pick for him the year he had. I know the Jaguars are offered pick 23, so and they probably could have taken, a Brian Thomas or something like that if they wanted to help fill out their roster. But, Jaguars, their trade obviously got rejected as well. But obviously, I think the Jaguars, before they took Brian Thomas, would probably, it'd still be the best spot just for Brandon Aiyuk, to go from a team with a top 10 quarterback as well. I think it's one of the best spots.
Another team, the Chargers. I know you brought them up a few days ago about how they could be a candidate. That would be fun for Herbert to actually have a good receiver on that team. That would, boost their winning chances greatly, just having one, really solid wide receiver in that room, because right now they don't really have. I couldn't tell you
a bunch of rookies like Ladd McConkey, Quinn Johnson entering his second year. If he can be anything, Joshua Palmer. But the heavy favorite, obviously, and I still love it just for his own help, the Washington Commanders. And that's where I think he'll end up going if he does get traded. If Washington wants to help Jane Daniels' future at all, you get him a go-to wide receiver one in this situation with a solid wide receiver too, which would be Terry McLaurin. So then right there alone, you have the wide receiver, you have some weapons for him, and then you can build the offensive line as well through the draft or next free agency period, and just kind of hope they get better. But obviously, getting a stud receiver would help out any quarterback, and especially a guy like Jane Daniels just coming into the league. He'll be that safe security blanket. I think that'd be a home run spot for the Commanders, and I believe they'd be willing, to give up a good amount for that. I also saw on rumors through a report, the 49ers don't want to give him up to like a contender if they were to do it, and because I knew the Ravens actually were calling. There was a report about that, but 49ers Ravens potential Super Bowl matchup, they don't probably want to risk that. So I would say the Commanders would be a perfect spot because even with Aiyuk, they're still developing. They're still kind of just going through a new coaching change. They're not going to be immediately competitive like right off the bat, despite, if Aiyuk went there. But I think that'd be a good spot for him just because you help this young rookie QB out and just get him another weapon alongside Terry that could form one of the best duos in the league.
Yeah, and another thing along with that contender thing, not only is it like you risk helping a team you might play in the Super Bowl or in the conference championship, but also like you'll get better capital back. They're probably looking for a high second, middle to late first round pick. That's probably what they're going to get. And if they can get a first round pick out of the Commanders, that could be like a potential top 10 pick because the Commanders, I still don't think are going to be very good this year, even if they got Brandon Aiyuk. I just don't think they have everything put together around Jaden Daniels to be solid 9-10 win team. So if they were able to, squeeze out a first round pick, I think that would be surprising just because Aiyuk would only be under his, 1 year deal and then he could go wherever he wanted. So it's kind of tough for Washington to give up a ton for a guy they don't know if they're going to have for more than a year. But
yeah,
it would be a very good trade for the 49ers if they could do that.
Yeah, no. I agree. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Obviously, though, the 49ers this might have been part of the downfall when talking about they've had their window the last 4 to 5 years of straight NFC championships, Super Bowls, but they just haven't been able to get over the hump, and most of that I think is just because Patrick Mahomes has been their way, and there's no other way to kind of turn it around. It's just been simply kind of like the Michael Jordan with the Bulls days, a guy like John Stockton, Charles Barkley, all of them could, say they deserve rings, but at the end of the day, you just ran into a legend. And if this is the end in the next couple of weeks, boy, I mean, it was a great run. Ayuk's coming off his best season, so this would be the best time to trade him because eventually, you can't pay everyone, and you're going to learn that the hard way. Brock Purdy after this season will be due. Christian McCaffrey making a lot. George Kittle making a lot. Debo making a lot, and you just can't pay everyone. Fred Warner, so you knew this was going to happen. But yeah, very interesting. But at the end of the day, they couldn't get the deal done. But, you never know what the 49ers pull out because it always seems like they keep their biggest players. So I'm really curious what they do here.
This is also, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is also going on with a few other players around the league. I think CeeDee Lamb just said he's not going through training camp until he gets a contract. And I think same with Jordan Love, the Jordan Love one was surprising to me. I saw that he's like not going to be going to workouts until he gets some sort of extension. Which
I saw that too, and I think in Jordan Love's case, it's like you gotta chill out a little bit. You had a good 10-week stretch run, but
exactly. Like
he hasn't
played, for 2 or 3 years of solid quarterback play. It's like you played like a good back half of the season. We know you showed promises, but if you go out and do it this whole year, then you'll get your extension.
No, and they also had what's it called? They gave him a 2-year extension. They ripped up the 5th-year option on his contract before the beginning of last season. So his extension's in place. He can play. He still has like another year or two. So he there's no reason for him not to be playing right now. But, I mean, that's fine. Lose reps in training camp will only help, other teams like Bears, Lions, Vikings, if they come to play, because training camp is where you get the little things down, like timing on routes and all that stuff. And if stuff looks a little funky, you could point it back to that. And so I'm cool with that. Obviously, they can do that thing. Yeah, the CeeDee Lamb one is also a huge surprise, considering he's entering his 5th year, and he obviously, what's it called? Just had a career season and was like a top 3 receiver last season. So I don't know why the Cowboys aren't paying him. Do they not want to make him the highest paid wide receiver in the league?
I think it's something to do with they're going to have to pay Micah and they're going to have to pay Dak. So it's kind of like they're choosing, and maybe the way the Cowboys see it, and this is the only reason I can think of, is it's going to be easier to find another really good receiver as opposed to another Micah Parsons I
think Micah's the most locked to stay. And I think they're thinking, but I think the way to think of it probably is CeeDee's the easiest one to trade, because you could get probably.
I mean, could they just do a straight up swap with the 49ers, just CeeDee for Aiyuk? Like, would that work?
No, because then the 49, because CeeDee Lamb would make even more money than Aiyuk, and the 49ers can't afford Aiyuk. Those are hypotheticals, to think about though. But maybe.
No, you make a good point though. If they can't pay Aiyuk, they can't pay CeeDee Lamb.
Maybe it could be a 3-way team trade. What if the 49 or Cowboys are willing to pay Aiyuk the 25 to 30 million, then perhaps CeeDee Lamb like the 39 plus. So they save $10 million in that trade. They might, it's those little things that may happen. It's gonna be very interesting though. Shout out to the Vikings, Jefferson done back in January, because because then we'd be talking probably about him now, what he's doing. But yeah, so overall, just kind of a rough start for these other contenders that are kind of having drama. Obviously, Aiyuk with the 49ers, no matter what he does or doesn't do, it's either the 49ers are getting worse or they're just going to be, missing reps at training camp, just trying to get ready for the preseason. Same with the Cowboys, missing their wide receiver one. So for the Eagles, it's only helping other teams when drama's, floating around on the superstar wide receivers ends. But, at the end of the day, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Aiyuk's kind of busted onto the scene last year, is probably a top 10 receiver in the game, and, made a legitimate case of who is like the 49ers best receiver. Is it him or Debo? And it'll just kind of be interesting to see kind of where they go, and kind of, along with the other receivers, what happens. I don't know. Is Jamar Chase going to be, fully participating? I think he will be, but he's expecting his new contract. So, but he's a year. He's only entering his 4th season, so he's a year younger than these guys. But he still wants to get paid, and I'm curious when the line's going to be drawn, because CD will want to become the highest paid, then Jamar Chase will be, and so what? When will the line stop?
I think one of the better solutions I've heard of is literally just make a separate quarterback draft cap or salary cap, so you can pay your quarterback. Say the salary cap for the quarterback is like 80 million. Like the max you can pay him a year is 80 million, which is insane, but that seems like where we're heading. And so that way you can maybe pay some of these other guys bigger contracts, because that's where the NFL is going. The more money the NFL makes, the more TV deals they get, the more money that these guys are going to want, because, that's how the world works and that's how business is done. And unfortunately for fans of those teams, they have to lose out on seeing their best player play for them. You got, lucky for you, they
Yeah.
locked in Jefferson, so you're fine. They were
Also,
smart.
shout out to Vikings again yesterday.
What's up?
Shout out
What's
Vikings again. Yes. Just want to shout out my boys again yesterday. Christian Darris are locked in 4 years, $113 million. Top 3 left tackle in this game. So getting all the superstars done. He was a 2021 draft pick, though, so Jamar Chase's class. So I was thinking he might go a little bit later down the road. But, got to take care of your players early. But, yeah, Vikings have been doing a good job of that front. But overall, very messy. I wish, in a way, it's what makes it fun, though, with these teams. But also, the NBA, it's a lot easier. It's like you're eligible to make this amount of money over this amount of years. And this is what you're going to sign for. You're not going to go to a different team to make more money. It's a lot more easier in the NBA. And I think the NBA does a good job with that. It's like you're either up, depending on the all-star games and how good you really are. Like if you make an all-star game, you're pretty damn good and you deserve that, rookie max or super max extension, and if, you're made like an all NBA defensive team or something, you make, 20 plus million. So it's kind of, all spread out to work accordingly and it's a lot smoother. But, NFL, it's going to be a fun time because Aiyuk might be the last big chess piece off the board before next season starts, but we'll be curious, if something were to happen. My assumption is within the next week because pretty soon we're going to be in August and at that point, you just better play because you don't want to. I'm always afraid when a guy sits out, just going back to the Le'Veon Bell days, and then what he looked like with the Jets after sitting out. It's just like missing a year can really take a toll, no matter how good a state you try to stay in or anything like that.
Especially at those positions where your body gets beat up, like. You take a year off like that, and you're all of a sudden your body's used to not taking a beating, and then you're a completely different player. So,
exactly. But it will be interesting to monitor. With that being said, let us know in the comments what kind of the top spots you think will be for Brandon Aiyuk. Where will he land, or will he just stay with the 49ers? We're always curious to get your guys' opinion. But as always, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. We'll catch you next one. Peace.